I never imagined the man I married would become a stranger bent on destroying my reputation. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Rachel, and if anyone had told me a year ago that my husband Alex would one day be filming me on his phone, trying to prove I was crazy, I would have called them ridiculous. But life has a twisted sense of humor, because that's precisely how I found myself. On the wrong side of his camera, my every move scrutinized, all while he smirked behind the lens. What Alex didn't realize? Two could play that game, and the footage I secretly compiled would change everything. Alex and I had been married for 8 years. We built a life in a cozy suburban home, hosted barbecues for friends, and went on weekend trips to the lake. From the outside, you'd think we were the perfect couple. But in our final year together, cracks began to show. Late-night texts he wouldn't explain, sudden work trips that never added up on the calendar, and those endless whispered phone calls behind closed doors. He grew distant, short-tempered. Once upon a time, we'd plan our weekends together, excitedly mapping out date nights or dinner with friends. Suddenly, he was too tired, or buried in projects. Little things started going wrong. He'd forget to pay bills, lose track of appointments, or accidentally delete my contacts from our shared phone plan. Always he'd blame me. "Rachel, you're the one messing up. You're so disorganized." Deep down, I suspected something was terribly off, but I second-guessed my own instincts for months, telling myself I was paranoid. Then came the day he asked me to sign a strange set of documents for our mortgage refinance. The words on the forms didn't match up to anything about a refinance. They looked more like guardianship or medical forms. I confronted him, and his reaction told me everything. He wanted leverage to paint me as mentally unstable. I didn't sign, and from that point on, he escalated. I stumbled onto Alex's bigger plan by pure accident. He was in the shower when I decided to check his phone for that refinance link he claimed the bank had sent. I didn't find an email about refinancing. Instead, I found videos, dozens of them, all labeled with dates, each featuring me. My stomach twisted as I scrolled. There was footage of me in the kitchen, footage of me watching TV, even footage from an argument he'd provoked about the laundry. In each clip, you could hear him goading me, pushing me to react, capturing only my frustrated responses, cutting out anything that would reveal how he'd initiated the fights. Suddenly, all his bizarre behavior made sense. He wanted evidence, twisted, selective evidence, to prove I was unhinged. Possibly for divorce court, maybe to manipulate a future settlement, or even secure full ownership of our house. My head spun. I could only guess how many times he'd set me up to look bad, recording me while I was exhausted or in tears, so he could shape the narrative that I was crazy. After making copies of every single video on his phone, thank you, backup software, I put his device back exactly where I found it and left the bathroom like nothing happened. My heart pounded with anxiety, but I forced myself to remain calm. He emerged from the shower, gave me a half smile, and asked if I wanted takeout for dinner. I smiled back, sure, as if I hadn't just discovered his entire scheme. Inside, though, I was reeling. How long had he been planning this? Why was he so determined to prove I was mentally unstable? Was he seeing a lawyer behind my back? Did he want the house, the car, my savings? That night, I barely slept. By dawn, I had a plan of my own. Two can play at this game, Alex. If he was going to record me, twisting the narrative, I would gather my own footage, the real story. The difference? I'd show the entire scene, not the manipulative edits he kept capturing. I bought a few discreet security cameras online, nothing fancy, just enough to get clear audio and video. I placed them strategically, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, another in the hallway facing our bedroom door. Spots where we often clashed, where he'd typically document my reactions. I also set up a hidden microphone in an innocuous plant stand by the couch. If he tried his usual tactic of provoking me off camera, the audio would still catch it. My hands shook with adrenaline as I tested each device. They all worked perfectly. Now, to wait. It didn't take long. The very next evening, Alex picked a fight about grocery spending. I'd spent $20 more than usual. Wasting money, he accused. Then he ramped up the intensity, mocking my intelligence, calling me scatterbrained. He grabbed his phone and started recording mid-argument, right when I snapped. "Stop insulting me." I caught a glimpse of the red light on his screen. He angled the shot to make sure only my angry face was in frame. But out of the corner of my eye, I could see the little green light from my hidden camera on top of the bookshelf, capturing the entire scenario, from his initial verbal jabs to the moment he whipped out his phone. Inside, I felt a surge of triumph. Let him record me. I was getting the real story. Sure enough, a week later I was served with divorce papers, delivered to my workplace, no less. The humiliation stung, but there were bigger shocks in the documents. Alex was seeking full ownership of our home, alimony, and a restraining order claiming I had violent outbursts. Violent outbursts? The nerve. He was absolutely leaning on those selectively edited videos as proof of my aggression. My heart raced, but I also felt a quiet confidence. I had something he didn't know about. The unabridged footage. I scrambled to find a lawyer, a tough-as-nails woman named Julia who specialized in family law. I showed her everything, Alex's partial clips plus my uncut recordings. Her eyebrows shot up. "I've seen a lot of manipulative divorces," she said, "but this is next level. He's literally baiting you on camera. Your hidden footage is gold. It shows him intentionally provoking you. A judge will see right through that." Still, part of me couldn't shake the anxiety. Alex was cunning. He'd been planning this for months. No telling what else he might try. Julia urged me to stay calm, document everything, and prepare for a battle in court. So I did. On the day of our temporary hearing, for property division and that ridiculous restraining order, Alex arrived looking smug in a crisp suit. I sat at my lawyer's side, trying not to show how furious I was. Alex's attorney presented his damning evidence. Multiple videos of me yelling, crying, sometimes throwing my hands up in frustration. They played a few select clips. The content was humiliating. Taken out of context, I looked unhinged. I felt the stares of the courtroom, the judge's expression carefully neutral. Alex's side pressed. "This is a pattern of erratic, aggressive behavior, Your Honor. Our client fears for his safety. He respectfully requests exclusive rights to the marital home to protect himself while the divorce proceeds." When it was our turn, my lawyer nodded to the bailiff to cue our footage. Full-length videos lit up the screen. Each clip started with Alex calmly placing his phone somewhere surreptitious, then launching into nasty personal attacks, calling me names, insulting my intelligence, cursing me out with shocking vitriol. Only after I'd grown visibly upset did he turn his phone camera on, capturing my meltdown while he appeared quiet and composed. The shift in the courtroom was palpable. Gasps murmured through the audience. Even the judge's eyes narrowed, glancing sharply at Alex. One clip even showed him rehearsing lines under his breath, muttering, "Okay, let's make her snap quickly this time," before approaching me in the kitchen. Another had him sneering, "This is gonna look great in court," right before pushing all my cooking ingredients off the counter, provoking me to shout. Julia presented timestamps, unbroken video lengths, and photographic evidence of how we'd set up our hidden cameras on our property, completely legal in our state. No splicing, no suspicious cuts. The judge watched in stony silence, then turned to Alex. "Care to explain these recordings, Mr. Marshall?" Alex's face burned red. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. It was clear he had no coherent excuse. He glanced at his lawyer, who looked mortified. Finally, the judge spoke. "This evidence plainly shows a systematic attempt to paint Mrs. Marshall as mentally unstable, when the reality is quite the opposite. Mr. Marshall's petition for a restraining order is denied. His request for exclusive rights to the marital home is denied. Furthermore, the court finds this behavior deeply concerning, bordering on emotional abuse." A wave of relief washed over me. I could almost cry with gratitude. For once, the truth was out in the open. No more twisted half-truths, no more carefully clipped videos. Alex's plan to smear me had blown up in his face. The judge concluded that Alex's manipulative footage was inadmissible going forward, given it was intentionally misleading and orchestrated to sabotage my reputation. Our divorce would proceed with a thorough financial and property review, but Alex wasn't getting the house, or a restraining order. Outside the courtroom, Alex tried cornering me. "Why would you do that?" he hissed, eyes wild. "You set me up," I almost laughed. "I set you up? Really, Alex? You tried to ruin my life with your phone. You never considered I might protect myself." He sputtered, repeating something about how I deserved it, how he had no choice. His words no longer cut me. With the court aware of his manipulative tactics, the power balance shifted. Over the next few weeks, I discovered more about his motivations. Massive credit card debt he'd been hiding, a possible mistress he was funneling money to, rumors that he planned to skip out of state if he won the house. It all came crashing down on him when forensic accountants picked through our finances. His mistress? She ghosted him after seeing how publicly he'd been exposed for manipulative behavior. His lawyer advised him to settle quickly to avoid a brutal trial. Turns out, he owed me far more than I owed him. In the final divorce settlement, I kept the house. The judge agreed I had far more equity in it than he did, and Alex was ordered to pay spousal support for a set period due to his financial deceit. Most importantly, the judge included a note in the final decree that Alex had engaged in coercive and emotionally abusive conduct throughout the marriage. Officially on record. People often ask if I feel guilty for filming him without his knowledge. My answer is simple: no. I didn't do it to twist the truth. I did it to reveal it. If I hadn't, he would have walked into court with manipulated clips, and I might have lost everything: my home, my security, my reputation. In the aftermath, I rebuilt my life, slowly, but with the priceless knowledge that I'm stronger and smarter than he ever gave me credit for. Friends rallied around me. Co-workers who heard bits of the story expressed awe that I'd kept calm under such pressure. Therapy helped me process the betrayal and gaslighting. And as for Alex, he slunk off humiliated with a battered ego and a stinging monthly support payment, reminding him of his failed attempt to prove I was insane. He tried reaching out once, some half-hearted apology text about how he misunderstood me. I never responded. No reason to. My new life is one free of his manipulations. If you're ever in a situation where someone is secretly filming you to paint you as irrational, protect yourself. Document everything. Gather evidence. Your composure is your biggest weapon. Because sometimes, the one who is quietly preparing is the one who ends up turning the tables in a big way. My husband filmed me to prove I was crazy. He never anticipated I'd have my own footage that made sure the entire court saw who the real manipulator was. In the end, that single decision saved me from losing everything. He wanted a viral story showcasing me at my worst. Instead, it became the ultimate backfire and my own quiet form of justice.